Welcome, MBA freshers, to the video. Whether you're aiming for the C-suite, starting a career in operations, or just kind of curious about how global commerce actually functions behind the scenes, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're going to fundamentally shift how you view the movement of goods. We're elevating the supply chain from simply the logistics of moving boxes from point A to point B to what it truly is, designing a high-stakes, multi-million-dollar strategic architecture. Okay. Let's dive into this. A supply chain network is not just a map of suppliers and warehouses, it's a strategic architecture that determines your cost, speed, and resilience. Here's how companies design them and what trade-offs they make.
Subscribe. We go deeper on every node in the network this month.
Alright, so here's our syllabus for today's video. We're going to cover the anatomy of a network, uncover the math behind the map, dive into the four-dimensional trade-off, look at some real-world stress tests, and finally talk about designing for the future.
Starting off with Section 1, Anatomy of a Network. Before we can even think about optimizing a supply chain, we really need to treat it like a living, breathing blueprint. We have to define the playing field.
The absolute crucial starting point is understanding our building blocks. First up is the node. In supply chain design, a node is simply a physical point in the network. We're talking a manufacturing facility, a massive regional distribution center, a supplier's plant, or, hey, even a retail store. Now, as future executives, you shouldn't just see a building here. You need to see a foundational decision point. The placement of a node is definitely not arbitrary. You're juggling some really complex variables. Where's the skilled labor pool? Are there tax incentives or zoning benefits? What's the proximity to critical raw materials? If you build a pristine, state-of-the-art plant in a region that literally has no engineering talent, well, that node fails before you even cut the ribbon. Choosing exactly where to place these nodes is honestly one of the most critical, highly analyzed decisions a business will ever make.
Our second building block is the arc. An arc is the link or the edge between two of those nodes. In the physical world, this represents your transportation routes, the highways, global shipping lanes, the rail lines. But physical movement is really only one piece of the puzzle. Arcs also carry vital, non-physical flows. They carry financial flow, which is your working capital bouncing between entities, and informational flow, meaning the data visibility you absolutely need to track the whole operation. And guys, arcs are incredibly fragile. Think about what happens when an arc breaks. A major port goes on strike, or a cyber attack takes down a national trucking manifest system. Your nodes might be in perfect shape, but without functioning arcs to carry those physical, financial, and informational flows, the entire network just grinds to an absolute halt. So, when you combine these nodes and arcs across different industries, whether that's automotive manufacturing, consumer electronics, or pharmaceuticals, they weave these incredibly complex global webs. And the stakes here are astronomical. Experts actually note that roughly 80% of a supply chain's total costs are permanently locked in right here during this facility location and network design phase. Just let that sink in for a second, 80%. Once that concrete is poured, the 10-year leases are signed, and supplier contracts are completely locked down, you cannot easily hit undo. If you put your nodes in the wrong geographical spots or connect them with inefficient, risk-prone arcs, you are basically going to bleed profit margins for decades, all before a single product even ships to a customer.
Now that we've got the anatomy down, let's move right into Section 2, the math behind the map. Let's uncover the rigorous, mathematical reality that actually underpins all these executive decisions.
Because you don't just, draw lines on a whiteboard. You use math. Step 1 is building a mathematical model of your entire supply chain. Every cost, distance, transit time, and physical capacity limit gets translated into raw data. Step 2, you run an optimization, which is often linear programming. You're inputting fuel costs, pallet dimensions, labor rates, and sophisticated software tests, literally millions of routing and placement possibilities, just to find the absolute lowest cost or the most efficient structure. But here is the major takeaway for you MBA students. Step 3 is analyzing those results to actually make executive decisions. Sure, the software solves the equations, but the software doesn't know your overarching business strategy. The math might scream that shipping everything by rail is 40% cheaper, but if your brand's core promise to the market is premium next-day delivery, well, rail is completely useless to you. At the end of the day, humans have to interpret these mathematical scenarios and make the final strategic call.
To give you a quick taste of these mathematical models, we generally look at two foundational types. First is the transportation problem, which focuses on minimizing the variable costs of shipping directly from supply nodes right to demand nodes. Think of this like a straight shot, moving a truckload of grain directly from a rural farm to a city silo. Pretty straightforward, but most modern networks face what we call the transshipment problem, and this one is intensely complex.
Picture an Amazon-style sorting network. You're dealing with millions of unique items, moving from massive inbound hubs to regional sortation centers down to local final-mile delivery vans. You have to optimize all of these crazy complex flows through intermediate nodes, all while making absolutely sure no single facility exceeds its strict square footage or labor capacity constraints. It is just a phenomenally difficult mathematical balancing act.
Which brings us to the absolute core of this video. Section 3, the four-dimensional trade-off. This right here is the ultimate battleground of network design, a 4D executive stress test encompassing cost, service, risk, and profit.
Let's look at why network design creates so much drama inside a real corporation. Different departments have violently conflicting goals based on how they're evaluated. Your finance executives get their bonuses based on free cash flow and super lean operations. They want to cut costs, slash working capital, and ruthlessly reduce nodes. Their motto is basically, burn the inventory. Meanwhile, the sales team will literally get fired if a major client finds an empty shelf. They demand 99% fill rates, meaning they want high inventory at every location and the absolute fastest Rs available, totally regardless of cost. And operations? Well, they're terrified of supplier failures or machine breakdowns, so they want to buffer against variability by hiding safety stock at every single node, just in case. As a business leader, your real job is to stop this siloed boardroom warfare. A truly well-designed strategic network is the mathematical framework that forces these departments to agree on a model balancing these exact trade-offs for the good of the entire enterprise.
And this balance fundamentally changes based on exactly what it is you're selling. This concept is beautifully captured in Fisher's model. If you sell functional products, think basic bar soap or canned soup, the demand is super predictable, the life cycle span years, and the margins are razor thin. So your network design has to ruthlessly focus on cost efficiency above all else. But if you sell innovative products like the newest high-tech smartphone or high-fashion winter apparel, demand is wildly unpredictable. The life cycle might only be 6 months, and the profit margins are huge. Here, your network has to focus on high responsiveness. Just imagine the financial disaster of mismatching these two. If you put a trendy fashion item on a slow, cheap ocean freighter instead of a fast, expensive airplane, it's going to arrive in stores months late. The trend is completely over. You're forced to slash prices by 70%, leading to massive catastrophic losses. You absolutely must match your product's life cycle to your network's design.
Okay, let's move to Section 4 and ground all these heavy mathematical frameworks with some real-world case studies. Let's see this theory in action. Consider this incredibly high-stakes scenario from a global chemical company. They were right in the middle of a long-term network design study when suddenly political unrest erupted in Egypt. The CEO calls the project team with an absolute crisis. Their Egyptian manufacturing plant was shutting down within a 6-hour window, and they had zero timeline for reopening. Just imagine trying to solve that with spreadsheets. Teams would be completely paralyzed for weeks while the supply chain collapsed and millions of dollars just evaporated. But because this company had already built a digital twin, a fully optimized mathematical model of their entire network, they could instantly calculate alternate production paths. They literally pressed a button, redistributed the volume across their European and Asian plants, and survived a massive geopolitical disruption without missing a single customer order. I mean, that is the true power of a design network.
Now, here is another metric that should make any operations executive stop dead in their tracks and stare. 10%. That is the percentage of total miles driven that a major Midwest grocery chain managed to permanently eliminate from their network.
So how exactly do they achieve this massive Midwest grocery win? Well, previously, their operations and commercial teams fought constantly. Operations wanted full trucks driving highly efficient, looping, infrequent routes just to save money. But commercial wanted trucks hitting those grocery stores every single day so the produce looked absolutely perfect for the consumer. By building a routing optimization application, they were able to clearly visualize the nodes and arcs, and the math showed them the exact intersection of their goals. Just a slight, highly calculated route adjustment allowed them to achieve daily delivery frequencies without adding empty miles. By finally agreeing on the math, they didn't just upgrade transportation cost efficiency, they enhanced product freshness, massively reduced their CO2 emissions footprint, and finally aligned their internal teams. Just a pure win across cost, service, and sustainability.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Designing for the Future. Because a modern network isn't just about sending products perfectly to the customer. We also have to master reverse logistics.
Historically, supply chains were entirely linear, right? You extract materials, you make a product, you deliver it, and eventually it ends up in a landfill. But today, thanks to rising material costs and strict environmental regulations, companies absolutely must design closed-loop supply chains. And designing for the reverse flow, it is uniquely difficult. Forward logistics is highly standardized. You've got these nice, uniform pallets moving cleanly through warehouses. But reverse logistics is just pure chaos. You're dealing with open boxes, missing parts, products in completely unpredictable conditions. Returning, remanufacturing, refurbishing, and recycling products requires its own highly specialized, complex network architecture. You need dedicated nodes designed specifically for triage and sorting, and entirely different arcs engineered to bring those end-of-life products back efficiently. Bosch Power Tools is a really incredible example of how to solve this. Think about a traditional refurbishment process. A broken drill is returned. A highly paid technician has to manually open it up, test the components, and spend an hour just diagnosing the issue. The immense labor cost of that single triage node basically eats the entire profit margin of the refurbished tool. Well, Bosch completely changed the game. They built a smart sensor directly into the Power Tools motor. Now, when a tool enters the reverse supply chain, Bosch just scans it wirelessly. The sensor instantly downloads the health data, saying something like, hey, the brushes are worn, but the core motor is perfectly fine. Triage drops from an hour of intense manual labor to literally 10 seconds of data transfer. This drastically reduces the cost and time at the return node, which directly explodes their profit margin on refurbishments. They brilliantly engineered the physical product itself to optimize the reverse supply chain network.
Which leaves us with this final, critical question for all of you preparing to lead in the business world. When the next major global disruption hits, and trust me, it absolutely will, how will you balance cost, service, risk, and profit in your strategic architecture? Supply chain network design is the invisible, multi-million-dollar framework that dictates who thrives and who fails in global commerce. Thank you for watching the video, and keep designing for the future.